Okay, so we're here with the Battlefield president himself, Golshani.
That's right.
So you just held another successful event right now. You've held 3 Battlefield events now. Next week coming up, another one in Edgewater.
Battlefield 4.
Battlefield 4. Your production value keeps rising every time. It's like the being of the UFC, basically. How did you, first of all, get into this? How did you even come into the whole MMA scene and wanting to do this?
I've followed it forever. I mean, I watched Royce Gracie beat guys 3 times his size. I've followed it ever since. My buddy put on Hardcore Championship Fighting in Edmonton in 2007, in Calgary in 2008. He had guys like Nagara, Fado's brother, everybody, Joe Riggs. He brought all those guys down to fight for him. I learned a lot about the business, what works, what doesn't work, that you got to emphasize on marketing, production, get the best local guys, and that's kind of what we base our business here around, the same model.
So what I've noticed is the matches that you make seem to be, like we saw today, all very entertaining. Now, are you the matchmaker for the organization for Battlefield?
Yeah, I do all the
So how do you come up with it? Like, I was sitting with you at Cageside and you were just throwing me matchups that in my head, I'm like, you know something, those are genius matchups that are for the future of Battlefield. How do you even, how do you bring two chemistries together? How do you kind of come up with these ideas?
We watch so much footage. If I get a phone call from a fighter in Toronto at 4 a.m., I'll get out of my bed, YouTube his name, to see what he's about. We put our time in, and then now it's just getting easier because all the guys, you get to watch them on your own show, and we keep bringing them back. But like Achilles against Hans, that's a good matchup at 165.
Yeah, I remember you actually saying that when you were sitting Cageside. All right, so now what's the future for Battlefield coming up here?
You got a title fight coming up against maybe Tristan Stores that just beat Chris today.
So it could be the Idaho guy. All right.
It could be him. Okay. It could be. There's a couple of good guys fighting next week. Jefferson Alvarez from Dynamic MMA. He's fighting a really good wrestler, Clay Gray. That's a matchup we're keeping a close eye on.
All right.
Jason Brooks. We might have Ash fight the winner of Dwyer Youssef, right, to earn a chance to go against Brooks. So we got lots of big matchups coming up.
Excellent. So do you plan on taking Battlefield at a professional level? Like, your matchups are already seem professional. Your production's already professional now. Professional fights.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're working with the city of Vancouver trying to get that done. There's a few obstacles we gotta get around, but we're gonna get it done. I think we'll have our first pro show early next year. We don't know exactly where it's going to be, but it's going to happen.
Sweet. So something I've noticed is that you keep a close relationship with all your fighters. Like, you know, you're responding back at all times. Mm-hmm. Do you think that contributes to how they perform for you and how they come out and, you know, how they show up to the fights on weight and stuff like that? The close-knit kind of relationship that you kind of make with your fighters?
Well, the fighters are what make our show. Like, I don't make my show, our production doesn't make our show. The fighters make our show. We do our job to promote the fights, but it's all the fighters. At the end of the day, if the fighters, we know you guys train 6 hours a day, right? So we don't mind working 18 hours a day to make it a good show, right? So I like to, you know, talk to the fighters 5-6 times a day if I can to see if what's going on with your training. If something is wrong, then I change the matchup, stuff like that. But yeah, basically, I think it helps being close to the fighters, definitely.
Like, that's actually true, because when I had that shoulder injury or that ankle injury a while ago, you were on top of it right away. And you were checking in on me, like, you know, making sure everything was good. So, you know, I can attend to that. So Hardcore Championship was based out of Alberta, and Battlefield based out of BC. Now, where do you see more of the talent, in BC, Alberta, or, like, you know, you see two sides of it?
BC, I think we got one of the deepest talent pools here. You got a lot of good guys, you know, they just don't get the chance to fight here in front of their home fans, and they keep leaving to other places. Like, you got Dennis is in Montreal now.
Exactly, yeah.
You got guys in the UFC. There's so many good guys here, right? Sarah Kaufman, she's not fighting here, right?
Exactly.
I mean, even Bibiano is not, now he's a local guy. He should be fighting here, and we're going to make it like the old TKO days when you had St. Pierre, you had David Loiseau, Mark Hominick. They were all local guys, and then you had guys from the States and around the world come and fight them. So that's what we want to do here.
And that's what, like, you know, when I used to watch TKO, that's kind of how I'm actually seeing Battlefield going. I'm kind of picking that up. I'm picking up that same vibe. Now, what are your lasting remarks for tonight's show? Like, tonight's show was actually the first time I got to watch from a seat.
Oh, yeah.
The last two I had to be in, I was sitting down here nervous.
Yeah.
And watching it from a fan's perspective, I can see why people buy tickets. Like, when the lights are going, the fans are going. Like, when you're fighting, you can't even hear the fans.
Yeah.
Right? But now I actually got to sit back. So what are your lasting remarks? How would you compare this show to your other ones?
Well, you know, like for guys who haven't been to one of our shows, it's like going to a Canuck playoff game. Like
Yeah.
the atmosphere,
It's actually,
it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
we don't have bad fights. Like we had 13 fights tonight.
Yeah.
There wasn't a bad fight, right? We
Yeah.
even had 2 last-minute replacements. They ended up being good fights, right? So I think every fight went well. The fighters, nobody left anything in the cage. And I thought it was a great show. Everything went well, and now we got, because of the show, our January show is gonna be a bigger show because there's so many matchups that I'm already thinking about. I just want to go home and start writing it down because there's some crazy matchups coming up.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, one thing I'm noticing with Battlefield already is, like, when I'm out, somebody will ask me, like, which organization do you fight for? I'll be like, for Battlefield. They'll know what it is. It won't be like some like random amateur one that, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
like what you guys do is you guys put a personality behind each fighter. And I remember when you first came to me, from the very first Battlefield when we were making a video, you were giving me these ideas of how I should talk to the camera, like, you know, how you're going to put personality behind it. And now I see how it's working through. It's kind of how the UFC did it, right? And the chemistry is working. And you can see yourself separating yourself every single show, the production's going higher.
Yeah, well, you guys, I mean, you put 3 to 6 hours in a day, right?
Yeah.
So we got to get the fans to know about you, about your life, so you get the proper recognition.
Exactly. And it makes the fighters actually fight harder.
Yeah,
so I remember from the very first Battlefield show, I saw myself up on screen, I'm like, I want to fight like Eos. And
Nice.
that's because of you guys, right? We wanted to put on that show because you guys put light on the amateur fighters now instead of us just having to turn pro and then bringing up our careers. So that's definitely thank you to you. And Battlefield's only bringing up big things, and from my personal opinion, I plan on sticking with you guys for a long time.
Thanks so much.
And because of everything Jay and the whole crew has done, Trevor and everyone, the whole production value. So it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.